Hey everyone, this is Anime Octopus, back with another thought-provoking discussion. Today's topic is what if Naruko could feel sound? An imaginative twist that explores how sensory perception could reshape her character and the world around her. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is intended purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's dive in and explore this fascinating idea. The sky was hidden behind thick clouds as flashes of lightning brightened the village below. One by one, the rooftops glimmered with firelight, and the once lively streets grew quiet under the steady rhythm of falling rain. The gentle rain seemed like the sky's own tears, yet even they could not immediately calm the chaos below. Amid the storm, brave shinobi led by the third Hokage worked together with unwavering determination to protect the village. Their teamwork began to turn the tide, bringing safety back to the frightened people. Not far away, a small girl stood quietly, her bright blue eyes reflecting the flickering glow of the flames. It was her birthday, October 10th, but celebration was far from her thoughts. Her golden hair shone like sunlight even in the storm, and her eyes, deep and blue as the sky itself, now glistened with sadness. As the village began to settle, Naruko slowly walked away from the crowd. Though she was young, her heart carried the weight of loneliness. She wandered the quiet streets, her footsteps echoing softly as she searched for somewhere to rest. When she turned down a narrow path, the sound of hurried footsteps made her stop. Shadows moved nearby, and Naruko's heart began to race. She had often felt out of place among the villagers, but she always tried to stay strong and hopeful. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I'll be okay. I'm not alone." Before she could take another step, the world around her seemed to fade. A warm, golden light surrounded her, and she felt as though she were floating through soft white clouds. Something bright and yellow passed before her eyes, then gentle arms wrapped around her from behind, filling her with warmth and comfort. A calm voice spoke softly, "You're safe now, little one." Then everything turned peaceful and dark, like a comforting night's sleep. When Naruko slowly opened her eyes again, she was greeted by a soft white ceiling and the faint scent of medicine in the air. She blinked, realizing she was in the village hospital. The steady rhythm of her heartbeat pulsed gently through her chest, reminding her that she was safe. Beside her bed sat the Hokage, his kind face lined with concern as he quietly murmured to himself. "Oji-san?" Naruko tried to speak, her voice soft but steady. The Hokage looked up, surprised. "Ah, Naruko. You're awake." He smiled warmly, though his eyes still carried worry. "I'm so sorry for what happened, my dear. The orphanage was badly damaged, but you're safe now. We'll find you a new place to stay, your very own apartment." Naruko's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? My own place?" He nodded. "Yes. But first, you need rest. I've already told your teacher that you'll be taking a few days off from class. That's an order from your Hokage." Naruko gave a playful salute, grinning brightly. Aye, Captain Oji-sama." The Hokage chuckled softly, relieved to see her cheerful spirit shining through once more. As the rain continued to fall gently outside, Naruko looked out the window, feeling a small spark of hope in her heart. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew she would keep moving forward, with courage, kindness, and the dream of one day protecting the village she called home. Naruko's silent determination. Naruko had gradually adapted to life without sound. It had been 3 months since she lost her hearing, yet she had never spoken a word of it to anyone, not even about her difficulty with reading. Who, she wondered, would respect or nominate a ninja who could no longer hear? From that moment onward, Naruko's voice became slightly rougher and louder than before. Her grades began to fall, not because of lack of effort, but because she could not follow the lessons whenever the teacher faced away from her. To make matters worse, her unusual tone caused some of her classmates to mistake her for being careless or inattentive. What Naruko didn't realize was that these rumors had begun with the older villagers and then spread among the younger generation. Still, no one knew about her hearing loss. Naruko endured the unkind words in silence, never allowing her expression to show pain or frustration. After months of silence, Naruko's sense of touch became incredibly sharp. She could sense whenever someone approached, even from behind. Though she only caught fragments of what teachers said in class, she refused to be discouraged. Her heart was full of determination. She would one day become a strong, capable ninja, respected by all. The hurtful looks would fade, and the unkind words would stop. Yet, even with her courage, Naruko carried fears that she rarely shared. At night, she would dream of that terrible day, the one that changed her life forever. In her dreams, she saw faces from her memories, and a storm of emotion would rise within her: frustration, sadness, and confusion. In those moments, she feared losing control of those emotions. It felt as though, within her dreams, she became someone else entirely, a version of herself she did not understand and deeply feared. But then, without fail, the dream would shift. A warm, golden light would surround her, and she would feel the comforting embrace of someone kind and gentle. In that glowing whiteness, she always heard the same reassuring voice. "It's all right. Everything will be okay. No one will harm you. I'll protect you." And then she would awaken, tears glistening on her cheeks, wishing with all her heart that the voice were real. Naruko had only one true confidant, the wise and compassionate third Hokage, whom she respectfully called Oji-sama. He was always there to offer her kindness and encouragement. She had begun attending the ninja academy shortly after the incident, partly to fill her days with purpose and partly to remain safe among others. Although she had missed half the school year, she decided to repeat it, determined to catch up and truly master everything she had missed. This year, Naruko made herself a promise: she would make new friends, study diligently, and succeed beyond expectations. This year, she would no longer be the one everyone underestimated. The odds were steep, but Naruko didn't care. She kept her dreams close to her heart. As she stood before the academy's doors that morning, the sunlight gleaming over the rooftops, she took a deep breath. Hope surged through her once more. A bright, confident smile spread across her face as she stepped forward. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where Naruko would prove that even in silence, her spirit could shine louder than any sound. With her bright blonde hair, sparkling blue eyes, and cheerful smile, one might expect Naruko Uzumaki to become the next popular student among her classmates. However, as soon as her name was announced, the hopeful first impression faded almost instantly, replaced by murmurs and sideways glances. It wasn't because of her name, it was because of the stories that followed it. Even before meeting her, the students had already heard rumors passed down by last year's graduates, older siblings, and even parents. They said Naruko was always playing mischievous pranks, sometimes causing trouble for others. Her grades were among the lowest in class, and if someone tried to speak to her indirectly, she often pretended not to hear. A few kind villagers claimed that she might have difficulty hearing, but such voices were rare. At the front of the room, the teacher stood proudly, observing his new class. He wore loose blue pants tied neatly at the ankles with white tape, a blue shirt decorated with the familiar red Konoha swirls on each sleeve, and the iconic green tuning jacket. His brown hair was tied in a neat ponytail, and his Konoha forehead protector gleamed beneath the classroom lights. The most distinctive feature on his face was the neat, horizontal scar that stretched across his nose. He raised his hand for silence, but the lively class continued buzzing with chatter. With a friendly yet firm tone, the teacher called out, "Quiet, everyone." The voices immediately hushed as curious eyes turned toward him. "Good morning, class," he said with a calm smile. "I'm Umino Iruka, your instructor. Most of you are just beginning your studies here at the Ninja Academy, so I'll explain how things work." He spoke with clarity and patience. "Classes end at noon each day for lunch. You may spend your break anywhere within school grounds, but you must return by 1 o'clock sharp. Lessons continue until 3, after which you are free to go home. For those who wish to learn more and challenge themselves, we offer optional after-school training sessions." Picking up a yellow sheet from his desk, Iruka held it up for the students to see. "This paper is a permission form. If you wish to join the extra training, please bring it home and have it signed by your parents or guardians. Return it by the end of the week to be enrolled. Remember, if you choose to join, you'll be responsible for completing all the assignments that come with it." He looked across the room, his expression softening. "You are all still children now, but through effort and perseverance, you will grow stronger and wiser. We teachers are here to guide you, but it's up to you to shape your own success." The classroom fell silent as the students absorbed his words, many not yet understanding the depth of his message. But in time, Iruka hoped they would. "Now then," he said, breaking the quiet, "who would like to help pass out these papers?" Eager to make a good first impression, Naruko quickly stood up, her hand raised enthusiastically. She stepped forward from her seat, silently asking for permission to assist. Iruka smiled down at the blonde girl and asked gently, "What's your name?" Naruko hesitated, bracing herself for the usual reaction. "And Naruko, Iruka-sensei," she replied softly. Recognition flickered in Iruka's eyes, and Naruko's heart sank. She expected his expression to harden, as so many others had before, but instead, Iruka simply smiled kindly and handed her the papers. Welcome to class, Naruko, he said warmly. I'm glad you're here. Naruko's eyes widened in surprise, and a bright grin spread across her face. Thank you, Iruka-sensei, she exclaimed joyfully. All right, Naruko, keep your voice down a bit, Iruka said with a small chuckle. Some of the girls in the back giggled softly. Go ahead and pass these out for me. Yes, sir. Naruko replied cheerfully, darting around the room with energy and enthusiasm. That day seemed to pass too quickly for Naruko, and when classes ended, she walked home with a spring in her step and hope in her heart. Sparkles emoji, later that evening. As the evening sun painted the sky orange, Naruko set out to find something to eat. The third Hokage always made sure her kitchen was stocked with food, but sometimes little creatures got into the pantry and spoiled things. Recently, she had found some apples in the nearby woods, but they hadn't been enough to fill her growing appetite. Naruko had learned to make do. Life at the orphanage had never been easy, she often received the smallest portions after everyone else had eaten. But she had taught herself how to find food on her own. Over time, she learned which berries and plants were safe and where she might find something edible. Occasionally, when she had extra, she would secretly share her food with other children who were being disciplined and had missed their meals. It made her feel happy to help. That evening, she noticed a small meal left on the back steps of a restaurant. It seemed like it had been placed there for stray animals, so she approached quietly and began to eat. She was so focused that she didn't notice the chef stepping outside to throw away some trash. When the cook spotted Naruko, he looked startled and frowned. Hey, that food isn't for you, he said sharply. Naruko froze, clutching the small meal. I'm sorry, she stammered. I didn't mean any harm. I was just really hungry. The chef sighed, lowering his tone slightly. You shouldn't take food without asking, young lady. If you're hungry, come to the front and ask properly next time. Naruko nodded, eyes downcast. I will. I promise. Seeing her sincerity, the chef's expression softened. All right then, he said, waving a hand. Finish that, and next time, I'll make sure you get something warm from the kitchen. Just don't sneak around, okay? Naruko's face lit up. Thank you, she said with a big smile, her voice full of relief and gratitude. As she finished her meal and made her way home, the stars began to twinkle above her. Though life wasn't always easy, moments like this reminded Naruko that kindness could still be found, even in the most unexpected places. Tucci and Naruko. Tucci was following his usual evening routine, heading home after a long day's work, when something unusual caught his attention, a young, unconscious blonde girl lying near the side of the path. Startled, Tucci dropped his keys and ramen bowl before rushing over to check on her. A wave of relief washed over him when he felt a steady pulse beneath his fingertips. The girl looked exhausted and undernourished, her clothes dusty and her face smudged with grime. Nothing, however, that a warm bath, a nourishing meal, and some rest couldn't fix. Carefully, he lifted the girl into his arms, balancing her gently over his shoulder. After retrieving his keys and the now empty bowl, he continued home with a look of quiet determination. Tucci was a chef by trade and, more importantly, a man with a kind heart. Much like a healer tending to the injured, he had made it his life's purpose to feed anyone in need. His code was simple: no one should go hungry if I can help it. Naruko awoke to the delicious aroma of ramen drifting through the air. Her nose twitched as she instinctively followed the scent, still half asleep and unaware of her unfamiliar surroundings. Tucci, hearing the sound of movement, entered the room with a smile. Ah, you're awake, he said kindly. Naruko, however, was far too focused on locating the source of that heavenly smell. She sniffed the air like a curious puppy, making Tucci chuckle softly. Excuse me, he said again, amused. When the girl didn't respond, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder to get her attention, only for Naruko to jump back in alarm, her eyes wide and alert. Tucci immediately raised his hands in reassurance. He realized she must have been startled and quickly understood that this young girl might have difficulty hearing. Remembering the sign language he had recently studied, he carefully signed, "Are you deaf?" while repeating the question aloud. Naruko blinked, clearly confused at first, but when she caught the word deaf, she hurriedly shook her head. No, not at all, she said, perhaps a little too loudly. Tucci winced slightly at the volume but smiled warmly. It's all right, he reassured her gently. Your secret is safe with me. Naruko's eyes widened in surprise. She hadn't expected such kindness. Please don't tell anyone, she said softly. I don't want people to think differently of me. Tucci tilted his head, already recognizing her from the village, Those whisker-like marks on her cheeks were unmistakable. "What's your name, young lady?" he asked kindly. Naruko hesitated, her gaze falling to the floor. Then, gathering courage, she said quietly, "I'm Uzumaki Naruko, sir." Tucci nodded thoughtfully, saying nothing. Naruko tensed, bracing herself for rejection that never came. Instead, the gentle aroma of ramen grew stronger, and she opened her eyes to see a steaming bowl being placed before her. Her heart raced, part of her didn't trust it. Is it safe to eat?" she asked hesitantly. Tucci smiled kindly. "Of course it is. I made it myself." At that, Naruko's face lit up with pure joy. "Thank you," she said brightly before eagerly digging in. Tucci watched with quiet amusement as she devoured the ramen with record speed. Despite everything she had been through, there was still warmth and hope in her eyes. Placing a hand on her shoulder again, Tucci waited until she looked up, this time smiling instead of flinching. "Naruko," he said, "how would you like to come by my shop anytime you're hungry? You can always have one free bowl of ramen. My treat." Naruko froze mid-bite, staring up in disbelief. "Really? You do that for me?" "Of course," he replied with a chuckle. "Everyone deserves a warm meal. Just remember, only the first bowl is free. You eat more, you help me wash dishes," he added playfully. Naruko giggled for the first time in what felt like forever. "Thank you, Tucci," she exclaimed, setting her empty bowl aside before throwing her arms around him in gratitude. "Thank you so much." Tucci patted her back with a smile. "It's no trouble at all." A yawn soon escaped Naruko's lips, her full belly and warm surroundings lulling her into drowsiness. "If you'd like, you can rest here for a while," Tucci offered. Naruko nodded sleepily. Before she could make it to the couch, Tucci gently lifted her up and carried her there himself. For the first time, Naruko felt safe, like she truly belonged somewhere. The warmth of his kindness wrapped around her like a blanket, and she drifted off into the most peaceful sleep she had ever known. Tucci looked down at the slumbering girl, his expression softening. "Poor child," he murmured to himself. "You've been through far too much." He covered her with a blanket before heading into the kitchen, where his daughter was kneading dough. "I'll be out for a bit," he said. "Can you watch over our guest?" "Guest?" she asked curiously. "A young girl named Naruko," Tucci explained. "She's been through some rough times. Be gentle when she wakes, she can lip read, so it's not too hard to talk with her. And give her this when she wakes." He handed over a small business card with the Ichiraku logo on it. "Let her know she's always welcome." His daughter smiled and nodded. "Got it, Dad." With that, Tucci stepped out into the evening. By the end of the day, he promised himself, the Hokage would know that the village's young hero was not alone anymore. A visit to the Hokage. Tucci walked into the Hokage tower with firm determination in every step. Approaching the assistant's desk, he skipped the usual pleasantries and got straight to the point. "I would like to speak to the Hokage regarding a matter of great importance, something that should be brought to her immediate attention." The blonde assistant instantly recognized Tucci, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen. Although she was curious about why a local restaurant owner would seek an audience with the Hokage, she remained professional. "The Hokage is quite busy at the moment, sir. However, if the matter is truly urgent." "It is," Tucci confirmed without hesitation. "In that case, may I ask what the subject concerns? If I know the nature of the issue, I can inform the Hokage and request an audience on your behalf." Not wanting to discuss Naruko with anyone else, given how many civilians and even some shinobi still held unfair opinions about her, Tucci chose his words carefully. "Let's just say it concerns the well-being of a very important citizen of Konoha." "Would you care to elaborate?" the assistant pressed gently. "Only with the Hokage," Tucci replied with quiet firmness. The assistant sighed but accepted his discretion. She pressed a small switch and spoke into the microphone on her desk. "Hokage-sama, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen wishes to speak with you about a matter he deems highly important." After a short pause, she nodded as she received the Hokage's response through her earpiece. "The Hokage will see you now," she announced with a polite smile. "Thank you for your assistance," Tucci said with a respectful bow before walking through the grand double doors into the Hokage's office. "Hokage-sama," he greeted with reverence, bowing once more. The Hokage waved a hand kindly. "There's no need for such formality, Tucci. Please, stand. You mentioned an important concern?" Tucci took a deep breath. "Yes, Hokage-sama. I came to discuss something about the one who carries the spirit of the Nine Tails. I mean no disrespect or harm," he added quickly when he saw the Hokage's expression tighten. In fact, I'm here because I'm deeply worried for her well-being. Now he had the Hokage's full attention. Go on, she said, encouragingly. I met Naruko for the first time today, Tucci began. At first, I didn't realize who she was. She appeared exhausted, undernourished, and clearly had not rested properly in days. I found her fainted on the street as I was returning home. I brought her to my house, and when she woke up, she seemed frightened and unsure of my intentions. I offered her food, and she even asked if it was safe to eat, but after some reassurance, she accepted it. He paused, his voice softening with concern. Hokage-sama, the way she looked and behaved truly troubled me. I understand that not everyone in the village treats her kindly, but surely, she should be cared for better than this. Doesn't she have anyone looking after her? The Hokage sighed heavily. Naruko's situation is complicated. But still, Tucci protested gently, she's a child, and an important one at that. She deserves kindness and proper care. I agree, the Hokage said sincerely. But the reality is not so simple. There are those who misunderstand her significance and fear the power she holds within. Some even oppose the idea of her living a normal life. It took considerable effort to ensure she could remain free and attend the academy like other children. She lives alone, the Hokage continued solemnly. I make sure her supplies are replenished by a few trusted jonin, and she is watched over from a distance to ensure her safety. It's not ideal, but it's the best I've been able to arrange under the circumstances. Tucci's expression softened with sympathy. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. I didn't mean to question your leadership. I can see now how much you've already done for her despite the challenges. The Hokage nodded thoughtfully. Your compassion is appreciated, Tucci. Very few people have approached me out of genuine concern for Naruko's well-being. Would you consider visiting her occasionally, to check in on her and perhaps offer her some comfort? Tucci sighed, a note of regret in his tone. I wish I could do more. My wife passed away recently, and my daughter and I are still adjusting. Financially, we're barely managing. I don't think I could provide the kind of stable home Naruko deserves. But I can certainly look after her from time to time and make sure she feels welcome at Ichiraku. That would mean a great deal, the Hokage replied kindly. If you could provide her with ramen whenever she visits, I'll cover the cost personally. Tucci smiled faintly. I've already promised her one free bowl per visit. But if you insist, I'll make sure she never goes hungry. The Hokage chuckled softly. That's generous of you, Tucci. Just make sure you keep enough supplies in stock, Naruko has quite the appetite. Tucci laughed quietly, the tension easing from the room. I'll keep that in mind, Hokage-sama. Good, the Hokage said, her eyes crinkling warmly. I'll have someone deliver her address to you. Please, visit her at least once a week if possible. She'll benefit from having someone who truly cares. Tucci accepted the small slip of paper from the Hokage's hand. You have my word. Thank you, Tucci, the Hokage said sincerely. It's a relief to know Naruko has someone else looking out for her. Tucci bowed once more. It's my honor. I'll take my leave now. As he departed, the Hokage glanced at the mountain of paperwork waiting on her desk and sighed with mild exasperation. She briefly imagined the forms multiplying when she wasn't looking, as though they had minds of their own. One day, she murmured, picking up her pen like a warrior taking up a sword, I'll get ahead of all this paperwork. And with that, the office fell quiet once again, save for the gentle scratch of her pen against paper, as Konoha's Hokage continued her endless work for the good of her village. Naruko's quiet night. Naruko slowly awoke, her eyes still closed. The feeling of a soft yet rough blanket surrounded her, and a gentle fragrance of freshly cooked food filled the air. She inhaled deeply, enjoying the comforting scent of an unfamiliar but peaceful home. Opening her eyes, she sat up carefully, wincing slightly as her left leg tingled from having been asleep. Blinking a few times, Naruko glanced around the cozy room. Then, as her memories returned, she remembered the kind older gentleman who had helped her. She looked around quickly but couldn't see him anywhere. Trying to recall his name, she decided instead to call out, Oji-san? Oji-san? She stood and began to explore the apartment in search of the man she wanted to thank once more. Before she could go far, a cheerful voice stopped her. I'm Ayame, said a young girl with a warm smile. My father is the one you were calling for. He went to speak with the Hokage about something important, but he hasn't returned yet. Ayame extended her hand. You're Naruko, right? It's lovely to meet you. Naruko smiled, shaking her hand politely. Nice to meet you too, Ayame-ne-san. As Naruko glanced around, she noticed a clock on the wall, It was already late in the evening. Oh, I should probably go now. It's getting pretty late. Would you like me to walk you home? Ayame asked kindly. She seemed to share her father's thoughtful nature. Naruko shook her head. That's okay. My place isn't far from here. I've been out later before. All right, Ayame said softly, if you're sure. Yup. Naruko chirped, stepping toward the door. Wait a second, Naruko, Ayame called. She walked over and placed a gentle hand on Naruko's shoulder. Yes, Nei-san? My father wanted me to tell you that you're welcome anytime, at our home or at Ichiraku, our restaurant. Ayame handed her a neatly folded slip of paper. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to visit us, alright? Naruko looked at her, touched by the kindness in Ayame's words. Taking the note carefully, she bowed respectfully. Thank you for all the kindness you and your father have shown me. Ayame smiled. It was our pleasure, Naruko. Take care on your way home. Outside, Naruko walked quietly through the dimly lit streets, her head slightly lowered. Though she tried to keep her spirits high, she could still feel the weight of cold stares from passers-by. She noticed some whispering among themselves, and her heart tightened a little. I'm sorry, Oji-san, Nei-san, she thought. If people saw me being happy with you, they might not treat you kindly either. It wasn't the first time Naruko had faced unkind looks. Yet, despite that, she treasured every moment of warmth and friendship that came her way. Those gestures meant everything to her, and she wanted to protect the people who showed her compassion. Trying to keep her thoughts light, Naruko began to walk faster. She focused on the sound of her sandals against the ground, trying to ignore the murmurs around her. Soon, she broke into a gentle run, feeling the cool night air brush past her cheeks. She ran past the familiar streets, past the glowing lamps and quiet homes, until she reached the peaceful edge of the village. Naruko finally slowed down, gazing up at the sky. The stars twinkled softly, scattered like tiny lanterns above her. She smiled faintly, her breath still quick. Someday, she whispered to herself, I'll have real friends. People who'll smile at me just like Ayame and her father did. Feeling a calmness wash over her, she wandered into the forest just beyond the village. The gentle rustling of leaves surrounded her like a lullaby. She found a wide tree and sat down beneath it, leaning comfortably against its trunk. The night was quiet, and the stars shimmered through the branches. With a content sigh, Naruko closed her eyes, letting the calm of nature wrap around her. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. And soon, Naruko drifted peacefully into sleep beneath the watchful arms of the great tree. Dear YouTube family. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you found this content interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with the latest from Anime Octopus. Thank you for being part of this journey, your support keeps this channel growing and thriving. Until next time. Anime Octopus.